So I looked up the meaning of the word catalyst, and it's defined by the dictionary, amongst other things, as someone whose energy and enthusiasm leaves others feeling energized and enthusiastic. And so, as you can hear from my accent, I am not originally from Red Deer. I'm originally from a place called Johannesburg, South Africa, so I am an immigrant. Can I just see by a show of hands, how many of you in this room are immigrants? Okay, great. So we've got at least half the room who are immigrants. So when I came to Canada, I discovered a country that was really open to me and what I could bring, and that's the kind of experience that I would like all immigrants to have. Now, I will tell you that one of the reasons why I'm here is the work that I have done with TRIAC over the years, and I want to take you back to 2006 when I first connected with TRIAC, and I see Elizabeth sitting there, and I see Ratna sitting here. I was doing a program, and one of the projects for my program was to do a big event that would benefit a significant community. So I thought, what could that big event be for me? And so what I wanted to do was create an opportunity for skilled immigrants to integrate themselves into their new society. And so I came up with this idea to help new immigrants market themselves in Canada. Because I think one of the key differences of being a Canadian versus coming from, say, Africa or coming from Asia or even coming from parts of Europe is that when you land here in Canada, you get to reinvent yourself all over again. In fact, that's what I think Canada and, in fact, the United States is all about. It's about reinvention. It's about rebranding, but it's also about being able, number one, to understand what you stand for, and then being able to communicate it, and then having the confidence to communicate it. So together with TRIAC, and together with some key corporate sponsors, including the likes of Deloitte & Touche, we got over 600 immigrants together in 2006, and we took them through a full-day training program on how to brand and market themselves, and then that led to a whole lot of other successful initiatives, and here I am in front of you today. I'm also here to share with you that because of some of the pro bono work that I've done, I've also done extremely well from a professional standpoint. And so I will tell you, you're looking at a man who believes in a concept called altruism at a profit. I think if you do the right things happen. So because of the work that I did with TRIAC, all of a sudden I branded myself as an individual who had a skill set in helping skilled immigrants integrate into Canada. And then I started doing some wonderful work with the HRPA, the Human Resource Professional Association of Ontario. And we've just come off a 2-year project, actually, where I did 10 focus groups with over 120 HR skilled immigrants into Canada, and we discovered some very interesting things. And I just want to spend a little bit of time on that because I think it really is appropriate to your role as mentors in this room. What we discovered is that there were 5 ingredients that the really successful immigrants had, and these ingredients were really independent of their basic expertise. And the first ingredient was what we branded as being future-focused. They knew that they had to let go of everything that they had left behind, and they had to fully embrace the future. We branded those immigrants as what we called the champions. And they were also the ones whose attitude was directly reflective of the actual success that they had achieved. There was a direct correlation between their willingness to embrace the future, let go of the past, and their success in their chosen profession. 2, there was a very high degree of courage/confidence. They were willing to do those things that they hadn't done before. They were willing to put themselves out there. And there was an inverse correlation between their courage and their fear of rejection. So what I heard in the panel conversation was a whole discussion around the word resilience. And I think as mentors, part of your challenge is how do you get new immigrants to understand that the word no doesn't mean anything except not now, right? And it's not a reflection on the immigrant as an individual, but it's simply a reflection of the fact that there's more work to be done, or there are more conversations to be had. And as I tell people, after the final no, there's always a yes, and it's upon that yes that our entire future depends. And one of the key insights I shared with these immigrants with whom I worked is I said, you know, there is no such thing as rejection. There are just people who temporarily cannot appreciate quality, all right? But it truly is about the ability to keep on coming back and the belief that somebody at some time will be receptive to your point of view. And in fact, when we surveyed the champions in terms of these immigrants, they had in fact connected with an individual who was receptive to their offering and in fact was the segue to their personal success. So I've spoken about being future focused, I've spoken about confidence. The third element was competence per se. And the message that we got from all the work that we're doing here is that there's no substitute for that raw competence. And that the immigrants who do exceptionally well know that they have to be as good, if not better, than their counterparts who they are competing with for the position. So there's no substitute for competence. And what we are seeing in terms of the most progressive employers is that they want that competence. They understand that we're all operating in a global environment, and those individuals are bringing another dimension to what it is that they do. And some of the most rewarding experiences that I have had is immigrants who have started off in a real frontline entry-level position and very rapidly have ascended because they've demonstrated that level of competence. And I'm seeing more and more openness towards that. Then number 4, and I spoke about this already, was the issue of resilience. So I just want to talk about number 5, and that is this issue of generosity. That many of the immigrants who were part of this project that I just did with the HRPA, in fact, many of the folks in this room, many of the folks with whom I worked with the TRIAC, are really generous in the sense that they want to give back. And as I say to people, if you pay it forward, you will be paid extremely well. In fact, I think all success is a direct reciprocation of the contribution that we make to others. So let me repeat that. All success is a direct reciprocation of the contribution that we make to others. And the more generous we are, the greater that level of reciprocation. So to the extent that you can help your stakeholders understand that when they succeed, they need to cascade that throughout their communities, then they will succeed even further. So what I want to do is give you something to take away with you. And I've created this little card called How to Be a Keeper of the Flame, because in a way, all of us in this room are keepers of the flame. All of us in this room are the kind of people who are inspiring others to do more and be more on the cusp of change. And you'll see that each one of these 10 points really begins with the verb be. And I think it's as important who you're being as it is what you're doing. And I know that the whole theme of this program is learn and lead in order to be a mentor. But do you know where the word mentor comes from? Right? So mentor was a friend of Odysseus. Now, if you know your Greek mythology, Odysseus was the great adventurer, and when he went on his 20-year adventure, he had children. And he had to leave his children with someone, so he left his children with his friend called Mentor. So if you are a mentor, you are someone who other people trust so much that they would literally trust their children with you. And I think to a large extent, being a mentor and coaching and teaching is about instilling that trust and giving people trust in themselves that they can take further. So I think a lot of the themes that were discussed during the panel are in fact included in this little card. And the reason why I put things on this card is so you at least remember something I've said when you leave. Because all the research that I have done suggests that within a few minutes of me completing my little rant here, you'll forget 90% of what I've said, but hopefully what you'll never forget is how you felt when you leave here. And I think you and I want to remember that. We can have these conversations with folks, they'll forget the actual things we've said, but what they'll never forget is how they felt. So oftentimes, how we make people feel is as important as whatever content we transfer. So the first one is, when you're in the conversations with all your stakeholders, be fully present. I know we've spoken about a macro point over here, but really my experience has been is that change happens one conversation at a time, one person at a time. And the biggest compliment you can pay anyone else is be fully present when you're in front of them and take the actions that need to be taken now. In fact, if there's one thing I've discovered, it's that success is directly correlated to the actions that you take. I know so many people who can talk the good game, but they sit at places like Starbucks, you know, contemplating the world, talking about how they would solve the world's problems, but really hope that somebody else takes the actions. I know the folks in this room are the people who actually make it happen. 2, be open. And what I love about the work that I have done in this space is how often I'm surprised. how often my perspective has been expanded, and how often I'm proved wrong. In fact, I tell people I enjoy being wrong because I think you can be right or you can be happy, right? Now, I think what we are also seeing, and to be serious for a moment, that when economic times are tough, people are a little less open. When people are coming from a place of fear, they tend to be a little less expansive. So we need to help them be open by not letting them be wrong. So one of the things that I do in every conversation is I let people know that when I'm conducting the conversation, there's no right or wrong, there are different points of view, purely. All right? 3, be specific. You know, I heard Alan talking a lot today about the importance of clarity. And what I'm seeing right now with the vast majority of clients with whom I'm working, they really do not have a clear line of sight between where they are and where they want to be. In fact, I'm working with a major client at the moment, and every time we begin a meeting, he begins with the following statement. He says, Michael, I'm not sure what I want, but I'll know it when you show it to me. Right? And so I am often accused of being overly simplistic. But what I do know is that if you don't have the simple goal at the beginning of the conversation, you're going to end up in a mess at the end of the conversation. I would say 80% of all the issues that I'm called in to resolve are because expectations have been vague at the source. And please understand, if there's one trend that we track at Environics that's probably bigger than any other trend, it's called apocalyptic anxiety. We're all in the middle of a perfect storm where we're overwhelmed, we're fatigued, there's so much coming at us so fast that we're asking ourselves the question, how can I cope? What can I do? So if you are the kind of person who represents simplicity, who represents direction, and you can help people stay on track, you're going to be valuable. And at the end of the day, I think we're all here for a commercial purpose. We will not get people to be enrolled in our cause simply by appealing to their higher spirits. We'll get people enrolled because they can see how they can benefit, how their companies can benefit, and how their communities can benefit. So be specific. And by the way, as someone once said to me, nothing is more complex than the pursuit of simplicity. Let's look at number 4. 4 is key, and it's just this issue of being truly authentic. Bringing all you have to the conversation so you can focus specifically on the people around you. And as I say to people, be you because others are already taken. And one of the big challenges that immigrants have is their fear of really unleashing all their capability, all their talents in their adopted country. In fact, you and I know that one of the common practices is a dumbing down of the credentials on the resumes so that they are not rejected by the frontline employer or by the frontline recruiter. You want them to know that they got to unleash all of themselves because someone out there is truly going to appreciate what they stand for. 5, there's no substitute for this issue of being courageous, and my definition of being courageous is making friends with your fear. So, you know, the theme of this whole program is learn and lead, and I think in order to be an effective student, there has to be some fear within you, which means that somehow we need to know a little bit more. Somehow we need to stretch a little bit more. Somehow we need to go where we haven't gone before, and somehow we need to do those things that we may not even know how to do. Do you know one of the core questions that you are asked if you are looking for a position at Google is simply this: how good are you at doing those things you do not know how to do? Right? Because by definition, if you Google, no one's done it before. So being courageous, making friends with your fear, and helping people make friends with their fear is critical. I think 6 is another key theme of this entire program, and that is this degree of connection, this concept called networking. And networking is not just about meeting other people because of what potentially they can provide you. It's being valuable to the people who are valuable to you. It's making sure that there's always a trade, there's always a quid pro quo. There's always a providing of a benefit that's equal or greater to the benefit that you expect to receive. And one of my favorite sayings is, we're all angels with one wing. We can only fly while embracing each other. And getting people to understand the importance of that connection is critical. In fact, let's do a quick exercise now. If I can ask you just to stand up for a moment. I've got a couple minutes to go before I hand over to Ratna just to close it. Just stand up for a moment, because I believe that when your butt goes numb, your brain follows. And what I'd like you to do is gently take your right shoulder and rub it against the right shoulder of somebody next to you. Just your shoulder. Take your right shoulder and rub it gently against the shoulder of the person next to you. All right, take a seat, take a seat. Take a seat. Take a seat. Take a seat if you will. Take a seat, take a seat, take a seat. So why do I get you to do that? Well, it was just a humorous way of, number one, getting you to move around a little bit. But two, it's because if you rub against magic, some of it sticks, right? And I think, one of the secrets of Canada is how connected people feel to this great experiment that is Canada. As someone once said to me, Canada is not a country, it's a model of what is possible. And so if we can see people as being connected so that their interests are enrolled in the collective interests, they're far more likely to take action. So partner with others. And by the way, I looked up the meaning of the word partner in the Oxford Dictionary, and it's defined as the other person in a dance. So I know that a lot of today's conversation is around urgency, but it's the art of getting people to want to do things faster because they're so eager to get the result, rather than urgency that is the result of coercion or desperation, because that's an urgency that is not sustainable. People have got to want to do it, and they must feel like they want to do it, not like they have to do it. So let's go to number 7, and I think 7 is what I heard from many of the report backs just before lunch, and that is this declaration of commitment. So I know we've got a couple of Americans in this room, and one of the core foundational documents of the evolution of the United States has been the Declaration of Independence. If it was Canada, it would have been the creeping consensus of independence. Right? Okay. But one of the reasons why I love that word declaration is, and I actually made this comment to a number of the organizers here, is that when there were the very quick report backs from the room, what I heard there was a confidence, I heard a clarity, I heard a passion, and I heard people declaring their commitment. So when you go back, you know that your role, as much as it is mine, is to influence people to do those things they otherwise would not have done. So they must hear the declaration in your voice. They must hear your conviction, and they must feel your commitment. And by the way, this works at home as well. I hope all of you today have told the significant other in your life how much you love and adore him or her. Because if you are not declaring your love or admiration or commitment to them, maybe somebody else is. Right? Just a little wake-up call. Thought I'd spread some of the wisdom. I come from a place that says if mama ain't happy, ain't nobody that's happy. Right? So let's go to 8, and I've addressed this, and that is this issue of being generous. Somehow, the most successful people I know are also the most generous people I know. And so my business partner is a wonderful man called Michael Adams. I've been in partnership with Environics now for over a decade. And when I met him for the first time, I was pitching him what I could do. And he said, Michael, we've done our due diligence on you. We know you can do that. The only question we have for you is, what can we do for you? Right? And we'll meet 3 or 4 times a year, and at the beginning of every meeting, he'll begin with that phrase, what can we do for you? So it goes all the way back to, a famous American who said, ask not what your country can do for you, ask what you can do for your country. And I think to a large extent, that's why we're here, and to the extent that we can get other people to think about that, that's key. And I'll give you one final trend here that we are seeing through the Environics research, and that is the flip side of apocalyptic anxiety is what we call social withdrawal. When people are feeling overwhelmed, when they're feeling fatigued, when they feel they don't have all the wherewithal to take on a bigger challenge, they tend to pull within. Now, we think that people are coming back because 2010 was a better year, 2011 is turning out to be a better year, but the bottom line is that we still have the majority of Canadians out there who are questioning their ability to fully engage in the creation of a big society. I love that phrase. And part of the challenge that we all have in this room is to give them back that belief and that mojo so they can go and cascade that in their respective communities. So, number 9, second last point here is my favorite point, and that is be brilliant. And I want to give you 3 letters, CIA, and that is simply celebrate in advance. So oftentimes people wish me luck for my talk, and I go, I don't need luck. It's already gone well. I'm in lag time. Right? So before I get up here and give a talk of this nature, I'm less concerned about the actual words that are going to come out of my mouth, because I know that whatever I say, I was meant to say because that's what I said. Right? I trust myself that the right words will come out of my mind. What I'm more concerned about before I get up in front of a group like this is what state am I going to be in? Will I have the necessary excitement and energy that I can transfer to the group? So I visualize myself being who I want to be before I am that person. right? So you want to visualize yourself being brilliant. And what we tend to do sometimes as Canadians, and we are changing, and I think it's all the immigrants that are coming to Canada that's helping us change, but we tend to be a little too modest for our own good. You know, on the one hand it's good, but on the one hand it's bad. Why did the Canadian chicken cross the road? To get to the middle, right? Now, on the one hand, that's what makes Canada great, right? The pursuit of the middle path. The pursuit of, you know, the intelligent, productive compromise. On the other hand, what I'm seeing is that people severely underestimate what it is that they can do. And oftentimes people are at their best in a crisis. Why? Because they thrust in a certain situation where they have to bring out their best. What I say to people is create your own crisis. Build your own wall and put your back against it so you can be your best. Right? And as Dick Fosbury, the man who invented the Fosbury flop at the 1968 Mexico Olympics, broke a world record that stood for 17 years. He had this wonderful phrase. He said, first I throw my mind over the bar, and then my body follows. So throw your mind over, and the rest will follow. And then finally, and I think this goes to a key theme from the panel, and really this is where the rubber meets the road. It's the issue of discipline. It's the issue of working your plan, planning your work, but being committed to do that every single day. Now, I know that many of you have got packed agendas, and this is my final 30 seconds. Now, Rutner's looking at me, so I'm accelerating my delivery here. I know, just joking. But, so I know that all of us in this room have got packed agendas, and all of us in this room have got certain things that we should have taken on already that we haven't. We've kind of been putting them off because we associate a degree of pain or discomfort with doing those things, right? Well, here's a Lipkinism, a truth that cannot be denied, right? Procrastinate later, do it now, right? And the flip side of that, and I'll give you this insight, is kill King Kong while he's a baby, right? Don't wait for the problem to get this big before you take it on. And I think that, for me, is what this is all about. It's about how do we address the important things before they become the urgent things, because that's called the crisis. But more importantly now, how do you give other people the consciousness? How do you give other people the confidence? And how do you give other people the capacity to keep doing what it is that you are doing, but also to build the opportunities that Allies and TRIAC and, in fact, everything here is designed to achieve, and that is simply to help Canadians achieve their dream, just as I'm sure many of us in this room have. So I want to thank you very much for giving me this opportunity to share my thoughts with you. And you know, whatever happens, just do it with passion. Thanks very much. Thank you.